Hello, this is Alkesh Nanavati again. We are going to use 3D space for relighting purposes this time. And this time we're going to bring some dynamic relighting. There is going to be fire, and because the fire would have a flickering effect of the flames, all the surroundings should also have the same flickering effect. And we are going to automate that using some of the tools inside of Fusion. This shot here, 328 frames, so let's just play it. This is the original shot using my Panasonic GH2, and it's just a simple handheld camera move from one side to just in the front of this wheel, and that's it. It just repeats. This is Fusion, by the way. You're looking inside Fusion Player. Now, what I want to do first is, there is distortion here that you may not be able to see. So first thing, I want to remove distortion. So let me just quickly show you. If you just pay attention at the edges here, you will see the distortion going away. See, this is undistorted image. This is distorted. This is the original. This is after distortion was removed. So we look at that. There are a couple of ways to achieve that. There is one that you can use inside of Fusion if you have some data, and or you can use SynthEyes or some other software to do that too. And at this time I have used SynthEyes, but I'll also show you how you can do inside of Fusion. Now, what we are going to do is, after the relighting, we are also going to change the season. This is summer, as you can see, the green leaves here, and from there we are going to create a snow-like effect like this, where you can see that snow on the ground, there is snow on the roof here. You can also see snow on the wheels, and there is snow particles that, there is snow coming down. The sky is replaced. There are some lights here added. This is seasonal time, holiday season in December. So we are going to use some of these decorations. And there are some lights here. You can see there's a light mounted here on the wall, and that's casting some light on this water wheel sign. And then there's also another light supposedly up here at the top, which is casting some effect of the light here. And you can see the bump map here for the wall. So we are also going to do that inside of Fusion. Yeah, so let's just play this very quickly, and there you go. And let's compare this side by side first, once it's played once. So you can see there is a fire here. There's a little bit of smoke here coming out of fire, and you can see there is the light reflecting on this wall, and also you can see on the snow here. There's a fire pit here where you can also see the effect of the light inside. And outside is darker because there is no flame emitting light on the outside. There's a light here you can see on the wheel itself. You don't see the light, but you see the the light coming down. And again, there is a lot of bump map used here to show some of the details on the wheel. Yeah, so let's just stop here and compare this between A and B. So this one I would call A, and this one I would call B. Yeah, and let's see, A and B split. Here's my A. Okay. So let's play again, and I'll just move the bar so you can see what's changing. The other change is that the wheel here is not moving, whereas here in the original shot you can see it's rotating. So we'll see how to achieve that, how to just freeze the frame for the wheel only, and that way you can say that, well, this was night, or evening, and there is nobody working here at this time, and therefore there is no motion of the wheel. Yeah, so we'll look at a lot of these effects, and the first thing we will do is go inside of SynthEyes and track this scene, because as I have said before, tracking is very important for a shot like this, where you want to have some idea about the 3D space, as to what's existing in the 3D space of the computer. Right, so let's go inside of SynthEyes and I'm going to first demonstrate how you would start a project like this in SynthEyes, and then I'll close that and bring the one that I have worked on. So let's start new sequences. These are all the this is distorted image, by the way, the original, and it's 24 frames per second. That's fine. I'm going to bring my preset for GH2 and just cache all these images in the computer's RAM. Alright, so it's ready now. So now you can see it's not real time, it's as fast as the computer can play, which is fine. We don't really care about the actual motion, but this is how the shot is. I'm going to fine tune my tracking, and you can change the setting if you want to. I just go with the default setting for this project. And let's run the auto tracker first, because there are a couple of things that you want to be mindful of. It's fine tuning. Right, so here is the 2D tracking of the shot. So it's just basically keeping track of all the pixels as to where they are individually without giving any respect to each other. It's not calibrating or solving anything. It's just saying, okay, there's a pixel here, I want to track that, there is one here, but it's not solving for the distance between the two. That would be the next step. Alright, so you see that it's also tracking something that's moving. Now in this case I don't want that. There may be shots where you want some moving object also tracked, and you can do that separately, and perhaps someday we'll do some discussion on that. But right now I don't need that moving. Let's see what else is moving here. There's nothing else, so we are okay. So that's only track that we should remove. So I'll just circle this and delete. Now we are ready. So the next step is solve, and this time it's actually solving for the distances. So you can see that if you're looking at the side, which is this side, if you look at this picture here on this side, looking this way, then here is the camera through which you are looking here, and then you have this wall here, which is this wall. You have the ground here, obviously that's the horizontal plane, and you see everything else. It's tracking all that it can. Now this may be sufficient. The error count here is half a pixel, which is okay. I guess you can work with that, but the lower the better. So we will look at a couple of ways to improve that. One other thing that you want to be mindful of is the ground plane. If you need ground plane where you're going to do a lot of work, then here you have ground plane all over the place. You don't know exactly where the 0, 0, 0 is, and where the ground is. So you can certainly manually track some of the points and see how to recreate the ground. We're not going to do that in this one. I did with the original project that you will see when I bring it up. But the first thing is I want to first remove lens distortion, because that will have an impact on these error counts. So how do we do that inside of SynthEyes? You go into the lens workflow here, and it says, what do you want to do here? Do you want to calculate distortion? And I say, yes, I want to calculate it. Go outside again for the solver panel and solve again. Now this time you notice that from 0.5 it came down to 0.39. So as I was saying, it does have an impact on the error counts when you have distortion sorted out. Now the image itself is still distorted. It hasn't really done anything to the image. We'll do that next. But if you look at here, go back to the lens icon here, and you see that it has created minus 0.00606. That's the distortion. Now you can either use this number here and export it into the clipboard, and then when the time comes you bring inside of Fusion and let Fusion do the undistortion part, or you can do this inside of SynthEyes as well. There is a workflow here, lens workflow, and when you click on that it says, do you want to undistort? And there may be times where you want to redistort if you are going to bring all the digital content from Maya and other places, and you want to have that to be used in a real camera which has distortion, so you would distort that. I like to work the other way. I like to undistort my real footage, and that way I have no issue with 3D object that is created inside of Maya and the real world. And also I just like to see everything undistorted. So as soon as you click OK, just keep your eyes here on the edges again. You will see that this image here will undistort. And you can see it is undistorted now, and it's solving again or caching again, all the data. Now you can also save this sequence, which I did, as undistorted sequence that you can use then throughout the projects everywhere. So that's the SynthEyes part. Now let me bring up the project that I have worked on. Yeah. So here is the shot that I actually did in SynthEyes, and you can probably see. Let's see if I can bring the camera data here. Yeah, you can see that the wall is still there. It's right here. The ground plane, I have actually made it to this grid line. All the tracks that you see here that has with the numbers, this one is 135, I think, 150 or 134. These are all the tracks that are manually created. There are some here, 136. That's what I have done, and you can see now where the ground plane is looking at this grid line, and which way is the Z channel or the Z direction. Yeah, you see all these track points that you see right here. So once this is done, you just save it and export the project. I typically export in Fusion and also in Maya because I need to work with both of them. And that's pretty much it for SynthEyes. Now let me just very quickly tell you how to do a manual tracking. Start a new project. And very quickly I'll not do undistortion part this time. I'll just quickly do the let's not even do fine-tuning, let's just solve. Right, so I have solved, and it has horrible error counts because of this. I think one individual point that was moving. Let's solve again. Yeah, now it's 0.5. Right, so let's say that you want to track a particular point, and in my case I want to track this point here. So you just go to the manual tracking here and click on the wand to tell SynthEyes where you want to put this track, and you can see as I move my track here, you can see in this window exactly what is going to be tracked. Alright, so that's done. Now you just either you can just start solving, but typically, or here what typically I do is I would like to stop solving at some or tracking at some point, every 10 frames, and then I tell SynthEyes to stop at every 10 frames, and also pre-roll to make some smooth transition, so that the track itself is better. And you can either hit the space bar, and you will see that it's tracking that point. If you keep an eye here in the corner, it's keeping that point in the center, and you can see that it's tracking here, and at every key frame here it's stopping to allow adjustment if you need to. And you can just say, okay, this is all I need, and you can lock it, and there you go. That's your new track point. So that's what I had done in several places on the ground to make sure that I had enough information about the ground itself. Right, so that's done. Now let's go over to Maya. And in Maya we have the same camera here again that we have solved inside of SynthEyes, and this camera is actually going to be used for both Maya and for Fusion. Now I haven't done much work in Maya for the effects in this particular project. I just basically if you look at, you see the wall here. All I did is created some geometry which then would be used inside of Fusion. And this geometry is, as you can tell by the way they are, it's quite rough. Here you have the overlapping. I didn't even care about that. Also, if you look at these chimneys, they're just flat. There's no round shape for that. So it's very rough geometry, just to know exactly how the scene is laid out. Now, the couple of reasons why I do this. Sometimes I then use this geometry that you will see export as FBX. So let's say this house I want exported. Go to export selection, and it's FBX. I choose typically. These are all the geometries that I have exported for this particular project. Or sometimes what I do is, if you look through the camera, I try to block all that I can. Now you don't see the sky image plane here because I think it's behind the it's behind this image, so you're not able to see that. But I typically block the whole scene so that I can generate vult position paths from Maya, and then I can use that for any kind of 3D relighting or fog or even volume mask in 3D inside of Fusion. In this case, I have generated that, but I didn't use that. I'm only using geometry inside of Fusion. So there's nothing much to talk about here in Maya. I mean, it's just pure modeling work, very rough also, and you have these track points, so they help. You know exactly where the wall is, and if you need to pin something to the track points, that you can do that. But otherwise, it's just very simple work of creating all this geometry, and most of this, if not all, were created from all the presets like sphere, cube, cylinder, cones, and all that. So now we are going to stop here for this video, and in next video we will go inside of Fusion where there is much of work, and I'll just demonstrate what is the script looking like for this particular project. So here is the script. We are going to start with this it's on this side, which is just the camera, the image plane coming into the camera, and the point cloud, which is coming from SynthEyes. And then we'll going to start building geometry work and projection of texture. Now remember, this is a moving shot, so you cannot just take a camera, copy it, and then apply moving texture to it. It would not work. So you need to freeze the camera, make a copy of that camera at that particular point in time, and find the image for that particular point in time, and then use that image to project on the geometry. And then you can look through your dynamic camera, which is moving, and everything will be lining up perfectly. But in some cases you may have to use a couple of cameras, because when you use the first frozen camera, the frame was capturing half of the wall, let's say, and then when you move further down in your timeline, you will see that that particular wall does not show up here anymore, or the image that was created only shows half of it, and now you have more wall, so you need to have another camera. So we'll look at that, and both of them would be applied on respective geometry. In some cases you can have one camera but two geometries. As you can see here, you have one camera but two different geometries that it's casting the image on. Right, so this is the script that we'll work through. There's going to be some lighting work here for the fire. We'll walk through every node as we typically do. A lot of instancing of lights to save some computing time. Some particle work here. You have snow coming down, and then you have smoke from the fire. Now this workflow here, that's interesting. Let me show you what that is. There is also another part of the project, if you want to call it, that I had started working on, and I think we will finish this discussion with that. I'm talking about the whole series. The last video you will see that some work on that. So here is the original shot that you saw, the one that I had finished. And then what I did is I created some environment from where I'm taking this video. So you have this window, right? And this window has these grid lines. And also you can see that there is reflection of the room itself in the glass. So if you quickly move, first of all, you also see some decorations here inside the room. But then when you go and move the shot, you can see that there is reflection coming. You can see some lights here reflected. You see definitely see the table here. And all of that is inside the room supposedly, and that's just reflected on the glass. So I did that, and that is what all this workflow here is. This part here, right? So then we'll connect both of them to generate that particular image. Alright, so I'll stop here and we'll get back inside of Fusion shortly and start talking about all this work. Thanks a lot.